Are we going to talk about the date first or listen to the opening plan first? Or maybe I should have read the agenda. No.
Okay.
I would assume they'll probably go over some of it
Over
with this plan.
the plan for,
I'm going to jump in before when we get to discussion, I'm going to jump in with some comments about the process, and then good morning to you. How are you?
Mike?
Pretty much we're doing the calendar. Yes,
I did add 1.3. Because
I'm
Jeff
trying to look at the difference between option 1 and 2.
Okay.
because I didn't know.
August 19th through the 31st.
Well, you had on your
That's
she had
why.
printed off your
That was part of
Oh,
notes, and you had put
that was
1.3.
if.
August 19th through the 31st.
Is that all right?
Option 2. I knew there was a difference. What the hell did I do with my pen?
So she printed off.
Can't start.
How do you refresh?
Yeah, they stole everything.
Stole that too.
Guess so.
Thank you.
I got my hand stuff. Anybody needs to borrow? All right. We got everybody here, right? We're good to go.
Silence my phone.
It's now 11:30. I call this special meeting of USD 49 Board of Education to order on July 30th, 2020. The purpose of this meeting is to discuss the 2020-2021 school calendar. First item on the agenda is to approve the agenda. Our agenda is posted on board docs. I move to accept the agenda as written.
Second.
And a second. Any discussion? Any additions? Okay. All in favor of the agenda, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Hearing none. And any abstentions? Hearing none, the motion passes 6-0. Please vote electronically. All right, now we're moving into our discussion item portion of the meeting, which will be discussing the reopening plan. I do have some comments I want to make first. So I'll just jump in, since I'm the president, I can do that, right? To paraphrase Voltaire, we cannot let the perfect become the opposite of the good. The plan which we approve will not meet the needs and desires of everyone. It is also likely to change as time goes on. Governor Kelly may need to close our schools again. I heard on the news this morning that colleges and universities are scrambling to update their schedules and procedures in response to rising coronavirus numbers. So we may need to also follow suit. As we know, our schools were closed on-site for on-site learning last spring. The closure was initially for a week and was later extended for the remainder of the school year. District personnel began strategizing for a reopening plan for fall 2020, knowing that flexibility must be built into the plan. The administration was wise not to finalize and release plans until recently, as plans made just a month ago would have needed to be pulled back and released, reworked and then released, causing confusion. While it has been frustrating for people to hear, quote, "we don't know yet," the honest answer is often the best answer. The Board of Education takes the pandemic seriously. Having to assure people that we believe in viruses is truly a sad commentary on our society today. While we are here to discuss our calendar, the board supports the efforts of the administration to purchase disinfectant machines, hand sanitizing gel, disinfectant wipes, thermometers, and other items, as well as promoting mask wearing, hand washing, and social distancing. We also support procedures such as cleaning each classroom after each class, having students wipe down their own desks before they leave, and sanitizing each classroom on a regular basis. In addition, teacher and staff training has taken place and is planned with regard to remote learning and virus safety in classrooms. Parents, please trust that your teachers have the best interest of your children in mind. School administrators and teachers have worked through many scenarios to help students with social distancing and mask wearing. Most of our teachers are parents. They understand the issues involved. Let me also assure people that the top priority of the board is to ensure that education and well-being is provided for, including for students, teachers, and staff. All must be safe and feel safe. Collectively, the board has reviewed information from qualified experts in the fields of education, health, public health, mental health, social development, emotional development, nutrition, and physical exercise. We have individually discussed issues with medical doctors, nurses, teachers, psychologists, counselors, school administrators, custodial staff, and others, and of course, parents. We have reviewed responses from surveys of teachers and attended school site council meetings. We have received dozens of emails from teachers, psychologists, counselors, parents, and others. Some patterns have emerged. Very generally speaking, elementary teachers and counselors would like us to open on-site learning on August 19th to make contact with students and get ready for remote learning. High school teachers and psychologists would like us to open for on-site learning after Labor Day to allow more time to prepare. Again, these are very general patterns, and they do not necessarily coincide with all of the results of the teacher survey. In short, we are engaged in this issue. We do not delete emails nor dismiss information from experts. We are working with the best interests we have, with the best information we have, to make the best decisions we can. The district initially planned to begin the fall semester on August 13th. Governor Kelly recommended a delay after Labor Day. The Kansas Board of Education rejected that plan. More importantly, perhaps, the Kansas Board of Education gave local districts the authority over our start date, but they did not provide us with the option of modifying the 1,116 student-teacher contact hour requirement. As such, it is important to note that we cannot replicate our experience in the spring. That is, schools must take attendance. Children must attend class, remotely or on-site, and students must have 1,116 contact hours with teachers. As such, to give teachers and students a little more time to adjust, we pushed the start date back to August 19th. The board asked the district to come up with alternatives, and they have done so with input from key stakeholders. And these alternatives include other start dates. In conclusion, there are very good and valid reasons to begin the semester on August 19th. There are also very good and valid reasons to begin the semester after Labor Day. I am interested in hearing from other board members and get their opinions on the matter, and then we will, of course, have questions for the district. Okay, at this time, does any other board member want to make an opening statement, and then we get to the details, or should we wait for the details and then you can discuss?
I'm good with however.
However you think's best.
Let me take this off. I think I'm okay with it. I'm social distancing, so I'm all right.
I guess I can go ahead and go then.
Go ahead. If you want to make a statement, that's great.
First of all, I want to thank administration for working through all this, because I know, as Mike said, this has been an ever-changing plan, and it seems like we get information 1 hour and the next hour it's something different. So thank you guys for getting all the different options put together, looking at the pros and cons of each and everything you did. I do greatly appreciate that. Having said that, I want to echo what Mike said. I want to thank the community members, staff members, everybody that sent messages, and there were a lot of them. As he said, we tried to respond to those, several of them. If the president or vice president responded back, not every board member may have, but we all definitely tried to read through those, and a lot of them were responded back to personally as well. I know I responded to a number of them myself. The other thing that I wanted to share with that is I felt overall that those were done very professionally, and I really appreciated hearing the different points of view from community members, staff members, and things like that. As Mike said, it's one of those deals I've thought long and hard over that. There's a ton of options going into this, and I'm not saying that one's right or wrong. Everybody obviously is entitled to their own opinion as far as how this is going to work, and as Mike said, no matter what we do, it's not going to be for everyone. I guess this is really something, and obviously in the times nowadays, this is something that really affects everybody differently. Obviously, those that know somebody, whether it's a family member or just someone in general that's been hit by the virus, might look at it very different from someone that has neither. Those with kids, may look at it very differently from those without. The point being is it's become a very polarizing subject, to say the least, and to be honest, I really don't think it should be. As Mike said, we had the state governor make a mandate for school, should not be started until after Labor Day. Again, people were for this, some were against it. Then we had the State Board of Education decide to have a split vote of 5-5, which basically meant it failed. And again, you had people for this and against this. The one point of irony that I did laugh about a little bit, which I guess gave me a chuckle, as I did find it a tad ironic that the state board voted to continue as normal, but they did so via a Zoom call. So let that one sink in just a little bit. Now it comes down basically, though, to the decision of the local board, which is where we are today. And having said that, I'm not a doctor, I'm not a healthcare worker, never claimed to be. Just like many of you, though, I know people that are. In fact, I live with one of them. So at the end of the day, I'm going to go through and also defer to the experts on a lot of this. And as Mike said, we've had staff members, we've had, the county, the city, health experts, things like that we've all been in contact with, that they've talked with in making some of this. So I guess the way I'm looking at this is, if by delaying the opening of our schools, whether it's a week, whether it's 2 weeks, whether it's 3 weeks, whatever it may be, so that we can allow the extra time to make sure everything we can do from a safety standpoint is put in place. Whether it's equipment, procedures, staff training, whatever, and possibly even keep one staff member or student or whatever from getting sick, then I guess my question to everybody is, what do we have to lose? I feel we as a board have an obligation to the students and the staff to do just that, and I fully realize that there's going to be plenty of people that do not agree with my thoughts, and I completely respect that. I know, as Mike said also, we had a lot of staff members reaching out and things like that, and some of the concerns being that they wanted to get started right away, also because we didn't want to end up in June of next year, and I think a lot of these issues can be addressed with the calendar committee, and a lot of these are actually drawn up in these several different plans that we've been given, and some of the other options. So I think whether we start a bit later or whatever, and other staff members, things like that, had different reasons or different rationale for starting earlier or later. Point being that, I think if we all work together on this and go through, I think we can find some common ground to actually make something work for everybody on this. At the end of the day, I guess to me it comes down to kind of a simple thought on this, and I've thought a lot on this, and I guess to me I don't feel like I can play politics with the health and safety of our students and staff, and it's just not worth it, plain and simple. So that's kind of where I stand.
Very good. Thanks.
Mike.
Sure.
I have very short. I again want to thank all the central administration, the principals, the teachers, everybody that have been spending a lot of their summer already on planning and going over a lot of this. Also, I want to thank, as they said, all the community members, parents, everyone that contacted us, and it was a good contact, giving us information and really giving us a barometer of how the town was feeling at a lot of different sources. You know, on society today, there's a lot of information out there. Some good, some bad, some you could spend days, weeks, months, years. I have spent the majority of my time on information, and I wrote down a few. The CDC.gov, the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, had a lot of good information for schools. Lee Norman, the Kansas Department of Health and Environment, is a medical doctor and had a lot of good information for all the schools in the state. The KSD.org, Navigating Change, has been really well done talking about reopening. KSB, the Kansas Association of School Boards, has had a lot of good information for us to look at, think about, read. The Ellis County Health Department has had, Jason Kennedy has had a lot of good information out there for the local with that. And COVIDKansas.gov, the Ad Astra plan that the governor put out, again, was a lot of good information. These were experts in their fields, and I tried to read and get that information as we were making these decisions. So again, I wish there was a perfect decision and we would have a 6-0 vote. There's not a perfect decision. So we, as a board, will have to agree on the best solution that we can. Thank you.
Thanks, Greg.
President, may I say a few words?
Sure thing. Please do.
Okay. Well, can you hear me okay? Okay. You know, what an interesting time it is for all of you as well as all of us. And up until just the State Board of Education making the decision to put the power back into the local boards, I had the mind frame just stay out of the way of all of you to do the work that you needed to do. And I think you've done a heck of a good job up until now. You've done still good, but obviously I've got to get in.
We got it.
Yeah. But one of the comments though that has really resonated with me was various texts and emails regarding please have my kids and their health in mind. And you know, I was going to bring a visual, but given the fact that I was going to pull it up here, but my 16-year-old son who goes to Hayes High is truly the decision-making influence on me, as are the family members that I have teaching in this district, and all of those friends and dear people, and I can also say those strangers I don't know, are certainly, I think, in my head and heart as we move forward today. And I know that this group of people, it's in theirs as well. And I would also like to share that it is an interesting dynamic to be where we were at and have an abundance of feedback, which I do agree has been very helpful. And I think all of us tried our best to respond to everybody that did reach out to us because they took the time. I felt it was important for me, to take the time back. But what was interesting was most of the comments started out, we want to do what's best for kids, followed by a fill-in-the-blank suggestion. And that fill-in-the-blank suggestion would conflict with about every other suggestion that we received. There is not unanimous point of reference in terms of the source of where we should get our medical information. There is not a one unified place of who is considered the expert. And And, at some point, I do think that the community that is supporting the USD District 489 should also realize that this is a global issue that's still trying to be figured out. And gosh darn it, this event planner and this IT person and these retired and various professionals are going to do our darndest to make the best decision possible. With that being said, I do think that there are some decisions that we are going to make today, but there's still going to be a lot of questions. And again, I think my spirit will still be to stay the heck out of your way so you guys can do your good job. And I think that while we're going to do the best we can, I would like the realization from maybe those that are, I don't think it's in this room, I think you guys get it, but the rest of the public, that we are really looking at this from the 30,000-foot view, and a lot of where the questions, the spirit of the questions coming to us were at the weeds level. And that's really back to the admin team. So just, I guess, again, what is it you say, Ron? Grace, flexibility, and patience is kind of our mantra. So thank you.
Very good. Alan or Lori, do you want to have some comments before we?
I guess what goes in my mind is that the impression that I got from so many people and their best interests that they had in the children and teens, obviously, that were attending the schools. I was so impressed with the letters that I got, the professionalities of those letters, and the fact that their main interest was not in themselves, but in what was in the best interest of the children and the teens that we were serving. The teachers, it was just, it really got my heartstrings, I guess, in the fact that they had so much work to do, and they know they did, but their interest was wanting to make sure that the kids were well educated and got their needs met. And so I guess I was just really impressed with how this went. I felt really blessed to be on this USD 49 board, even though it's probably one of the most difficult decisions I felt that I had to make. In fact, last night I was sitting at the computer and was really struggling with coming in here today and having to make a decision that was going to be, for some people, a good decision to them, and for some people, a decision that they felt was not in the best interest of themselves or their children or whatever. But I just want to let people know that we as a board really take this seriously and have put our heart into this. And it's not something that we consider lightly by any means, but that we really do take consideration in this, in our decisions, the children and the staff involved. Not only the education part of that, but the health part of that as well. And want to make a good decision, the best decision. It may not be, there's not really a right or a wrong decision, but we just want to make the best decision for your children. So I guess that's where I want to leave it, is that we have put everything we can into this decision, and I appreciate the fact that there were so many professionals in this that reached out to us and said the same to us as what we were saying to them, is that our interest is in the children and doing what's best for them. So thank you very much. And thank you very much, Ron, and the people that have worked so hard to put all of this together. They did an excellent, excellent job. I appreciate that very much.
Very good. Okay, thanks, Lori. Alan?
Well, quickly, I'd like to say that thank you so much for all the administration. I know this is uncharted waters, and that it is really important. And I would like to mention that the decision has not been made before this meeting. We're here to find out all their recommendations and do the best we possibly can to make the best decision and what's best for kids. If you do that, you can't go wrong. So I know that the teachers are anxious to find out this date because they're very organized and they want to know what their next step is. And we also recognize as a board that there's going to be a lot of extra work, and we're going to do our best to make sure that we can support you and give you what you need to make those plans and do what's best for those kids when they walk in the door, plus protect you. I know that the administration has looked at all different kinds of avenues to protect the staff and kids and parents and people coming in, and that was definitely demonstrated at the graduation last weekend, which we did a great job. So thanks again for all your efforts and the comments. Like I would echo everyone, the comments and the emails made a huge difference, and we appreciate that.
Thanks, Alan. You made a very good point. I actually have no idea how the other board members feel about the start date, so we have not colluded ahead of time. This is definitely an open meeting, and we're making decisions today.
Mr. President, I forgot two quick things.
Okay.
Sorry. One of them, my list of people to thank after the Ellis County Health Department was the City of Hayes. I really think they took up the battle of trying to get kids back in school by making a hard decision of putting in the mask ordinance here a few days ago. And I want to thank the City Commission. And I will just bring up, if there are people, I know it's not on our agenda, but if there are people in this room that would like to address the board, can we allow that?
We've already approved the agenda, so it might be a bit of a legal issue, but I think we can bend the rules a little bit.
I think you can go ahead and do that.
All right.
What you can do is take an action on an item that's not on your agenda.
Correct. Right.
You're just soliciting public input
So if there are-
on an item that is on your agenda for action, so that's fine.
Sounds good. And to clarify, the reason that, well, special meetings, we typically don't have public comment because they're very specific items that we're discussing. So there was no reason not to have public comment on there except that it's not normally done. But if there are anyone in the room, if there is anyone in the room, just raise your hand and I'll read some more about public comment. Okay. Let me read my little spiel here. This is a meeting open to the public, not a public meeting. Board members have received dozens of emails. We do not delete emails from constituents. District personnel, school administrators, teachers, and staff have consulted experts and have discussed many issues ranging from the pros and cons of remote learning to helping children wear masks in school. We welcome additional comments today. Please state your name and address, as we are interested in hearing from people in our district. Please limit your comments to 2 minutes. I'll make that 3 minutes. This is only one person. And try not to repeat statements made by others. Well, we may ask follow-up questions, but don't be offended if we simply thank you for your comments. Okay, it looks like there's maybe only one or two, so I'll stop with my spiel. Please.
Okay. All right, Carrie Lacey, principal at Lincoln. I'll give you my address as the Lincoln address, and it's 206 Ash. Just a couple of things, and we're social distancing, so I'm going to take this off. Yes, this is an emotional issue, very emotional for everyone. And I'll try to do this without getting emotional, but it's not going to happen. I hear all of you talk about students. Yes, we are worried about our students, but we're worried about our staff. Yep. And we have our staffs at our utmost importance also. And one of the points I want to make is I'm very worried about not starting before September 8th. And here's the reason. Our students for Fort Hays State come back on the 19th. 2.5 weeks after the 19th of August is September 8th. If there is going to be an outbreak in our community, it probably will be after our Fort Hays State students come back. My biggest fear is starting completely remote with 5, 6, and 7, 8-year-olds. That's my biggest fear. I have 5-year-olds that don't even know what a teacher is. They don't. And now you want my teacher to Zoom with me? And I'm like, okay, it's just another lady or another man. So I wanted you to know that. And I also wanted to make a couple of points about the preparation. Man, we've worked hard. I think after, we are thanking people, our custodial staff, Rusty and his staff, holy cow. We need to thank them because the planning and things that have been going on with them. Could we start remotely with middle school and high school kids? Probably. Is it what's best? I don't think so. But that's only my personal opinion. But starting remotely with little ones, that scares me. That scares me. That is not what's best. And what I would really like to do is get it just a week and a half or 2 weeks under our belt before that college influx could possibly, I'm not saying it will, but could possibly hit our community. And then that's when we're in trouble. So that's one point I wanted to make. And then, I look at the process of all of this and our administration and, everyone, our teachers are going to be prepared no matter what. We tell them we're starting the 19th. Our teachers are prepared because they are rock stars. Our staff will be prepared. If we tell them they're going to start September 8th, they're going to be prepared.
Okay.
Are they going to be any more prepared September 8th than they are August 19th? No, because they're going to do whatever they need to do to start when we start. I'm not saying August 19th is the best, but I do want you to consider those two things. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. As a matter of fact, one thing there was a lot in I didn't go too long, I went way too long, but I had a lot more information that I could have mentioned. And one was that from the survey results and the emails that we received, starting remotely seemed to be kind of down on the list from the other options.
Right.
With both grade school
For
and
many
high school.
reasons. But, yes, have another point? Okay.
Just a quick question, Mr. Walker.
Sure.
Are we to give our comments now, or will there be a Q&A session later on during your discussions, or?
Why don't we do it now? If you have comments, make them now to the board.
Okay. Lance Cranwater, Assistant Principal AD at Hayes High School, 2600 East 13th. So, I want to commend Carrie for her comments. I'm going to admit, I think even amongst schools, there may be a little, I've seen some of the comments, we've looked at the spreadsheets, and there are trends, it does seem to be all over the board. I'm going to preface my comments by saying I don't want to pit any buildings against any other buildings. I'm simply going to give my viewpoints that I've shared with our administration at the high school level, and you take those for what it's worth, and we'll go from there. But what I want to speak from the activities and athletics standpoint, and in regards to how starting dates or whatever logically are affected for the middle school and the high school, because we are both under the same calendars, and we are all both working with activities and athletics. From the beginning of the school year, from the beginning of the summer, when we started workouts and weightlifting workouts, I would say on a daily basis, from what my coaches have been able to tell me, from from the middle school students through the high school students, both boys and girls, Monday through Thursday for approximately 8 weeks now, we've had between, depending on, vacations and such, between 250 to 450 kids go through our doors on a daily basis. We put in the protocols that were suggested to us, taking temperature checks. We did those every day with every student. We were given sanitizing equipment by Rusty's crew, which did a fabulous job with helping us and with doing their own sanitizing and cleaning of the equipment on an interim basis also. Our coaches, between each sessions, we had five workout sessions per day, Monday through Thursday, sanitized the equipment, did everything that they were asked to do, even including basketballs, volleyballs, everything that they touched on a daily basis 5 times a day between each one of those sessions. Point being is that we've had a number of students already go through our buildings. We've put the protocols in. We feel that from that standpoint, if you want to use that as an example, we're ready. We're ready to go. And I think that the number of coaches and teachers that I've talked to, just personally, they're ready to go also. And it's not so much that they're ready to go because they're ready to start coaching and start getting on the field and so much, in that regard, but it's the kids have been out of school for so long, they've been away from activities for so long. If we delay the start of school anymore, and then maybe we have to go to a phase 3 situation or whatever that makes us have to cancel school, then that's just all the more fewer school days that we have with our students. One thing we also need to keep in mind is the CASHA calendar. CASHA calendar, the current calendar, is now intact. All school districts are following the CASHA calendar that we have opponents with those districts. They will be starting practices on August 17th. What my hope is that regardless of what start date we do decide on, we need to keep in mind that we would plan on starting August 17th, and we would keep our same events calendars regardless of the start date, because if we don't, we would be behind the 8 ball with all of our opponents who are sticking with the events calendar. So,
Okay,
that's
thank
all.
you. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, folks, I want to, just a minute, Marty. Marty wants to speak, that's fine. I want to assure people that aren't here because it wasn't on the agenda, and so we want to be fair. We have received a lot of emails from folks that are pushing for a later start date, so we are considering all information, and but we do appreciate the comments from people in the room. Marty, you want to say 2 minutes worth, 3 minutes worth of stuff?
Yes. Marty Straub, principal at Hayes High School. My home is Hayes High, and once in a while I'm in the neighborhood of our superintendent. If you're curious about what other schools of similar size in our league are doing, most of them starting a week after we had planned in the August 25th, 26th period. There's a couple schools, Great Bend being one, Colby being another, not in our league, but as close as we can get in our area. They're starting on the 20th as well. Whatever date you give us, we're going to do our very best. I want you to know that. And we feel that we can be ready on the 19th at Hayes High School. I shared that with you. I don't know that we will be any more or less prepared by going later than that, but please know we're going to do our very best regardless of what your vote is today. I am especially concerned for the social emotional needs of our kids, getting them back in. In the keys to the process, we've chosen relevance and relationship as our 2 goal areas. And I just want to concur with and restate what Carrie said earlier. We are very, very interested in seeing our kids in the event there is growth in the area, so we can try to connect with them as best as possible. We may not have that opportunity if we do, as Ms. Lacey said, if we don't get some contact with them. That is probably of all the concerns that we might have and we're all losing sleep over, that is probably one of my biggest concerns, that we don't get that opportunity to at least get to know these kids for 2 or 3 weeks if growth in fact takes place. And if we all do what we're supposed to do, we can help mediate some of those things. But I also know we have less control over the college population. That's a whole different animal. And that animal's coming to town whether we realize it, whether we like it or not. We like it. We need it. But I'm telling you, they're coming from all over the United States. Our kids are going on to our community. So please, I know you'll make the right decision, whatever that decision is. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Marty.
Hey, Marty. Just have a quick question for you. And I guess maybe just hoping maybe you can shed a little bit more. I know they sent surveys and some stuff like that around. And I guess the one thing I wanted to ask, just according to the one here, we had 48 staff members from Hayes High respond, and overwhelmingly they chose option 3 as their first or second choice. Do you feel that...
Actually, the number one, the choice that got the most individual votes was plan number 1.
Oh, okay. I must have a different one than the one that they sent us.
The NEA survey that was sent out, it was plan number 1.
Okay.
We do have a different one.
Option 3.
I'm
All right.
sorry, I don't know which survey you're looking at.
I'm just going off the one here. They said 48 members responded. I had here in the high school, so overwhelmingly chose option 3 as their first or second choice. Nobody chose it as the last choice. So.
Yeah, and the one that I have in my mind was option 1. The NEA sent it out to their membership, so I.
Oh, okay.
You know.
And maybe they did it as possibly different. So I'm just curious if there was a rationale for that, or if they had questions on something. So.
I think fear is real. You know, when Jason Kennedy and I walked our grounds talking about graduation a couple weeks before setup, we had really very frank and it was very interesting to hear some of the data. And Mr. Kennedy probably said it best: you can't talk people out of fear. And if I have any fear, I think our fear will not be less if numbers go up by September 1st or September 8th. Yeah. And I'm hopefully they don't go up, but I think that fear will be there. And I think Mr. Lynn and I met with some folks this morning talking about configuration of rooms and what can we do differently, a couple teachers, and we talked about think about in best case scenario, you come back to school and after 3 or 4 weeks there may be no staff members that be test positive, and maybe only, and it's too many, but let's say it's 2 or 3 students out of 900 in our building. Man, wouldn't that be cool? And then we could really start talking about kids. I'm really looking forward to being able to talk about kids and meeting their needs, and there's not only academically but social, emotional, and activity and clubs and those things, and developing a culture in our school again. Yeah, I'll try to be. I'll just stop right there. But having that ability to have kids back in our schools, so they start getting to so we can give them the opportunity to focus on something positive as well.
Sure.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Thank you, Marty.
Thanks, Marty. Well, I want to highlight, I know I said this, but I'll repeat myself a bit, that while we are here discussing the calendar, people really should understand, I hope they do by now, that the district has put so much work into safety of students, teachers, and staff already with the machines we purchased and the practices that we're taking place, planning for. So this isn't as if we're starting fresh. The plans have been developing for months, and especially over the past few weeks really ramped up. One question I have for you, Ron, is I did receive, I think one of the emails suggested that we need more time for training staff on how to deal with the virus, or mask wearing and cleaning the classrooms and helping students in that way. We've heard that we can be ready to start from a couple of folks here on the 19th. Is your perception that teachers are receiving that training, or is it planned to take place?
Yeah, I mean, all those calendar options that you have in front of you all include adding an extra in-service day that was not normally scheduled. So we have added an extra in-service day, and part of that time of the additional day would be for talking about health, safety protocols, procedures that will be put in place. That's why one of the reasons why we felt like we needed an additional day, just because You know, we're an educational group, but being able to spend some time talking about just safety and health and some different procedures. So
Okay.
we've added additional time to the calendar that all staff will receive training. I don't have exact details of what that'll all look like, but we'll definitely have a pretty detailed plan going forward.
Very good. Yeah, thank you. I assume that you would, of course, I assume that you're doing this, but I want to make sure that people understand that we are not just, no matter what the start date is, just, okay, we're starting school. We're constantly planning and making adjustments.
Mike, may I add one thing?
Sure.
Lance, get back to your numbers. I think the number you're probably looking at was this district survey that was sent out.
Could have been.
Yeah, it was the calendar committee. I think Cheryl Shepard Adams, the data is from Cheryl Shepard Adams that she sent to us. And I just reported that to the board, what she said.
Well, it clearly confirms some of the other information that option 2 doesn't seem to be very popular.
No.
That's starting remote, so.
I know you have 3 starting dates, the first date is the 19th, and I would just ask if we are going to be on the 19th, why we consider the next week instead of the first date.
I got you. Thank you. Was there another hand back there? Tom? All right. Sitting in the back row.
It's my Amish look. I was told I look like Amish if I do this. So Tom Albers, Hayes Middle School. Just know I can never have a beard, I guess, actually. So I'm going to just say thank you to the previous admin, because I think that we're all just trying to figure out what we're doing. But also thank you to you guys, because there's no manual for you, and there's no manual for our district office, and there's no manual for us to do it. And we just got to try and figure out how to be unified. For Hayes Middle School, I met with our billing leadership team and our foundations team. I wanted the best number of people being able to do it without getting too many people. And I'm very thankful for their 3 hours one day and 3 hours another. And we just went through a lot of things. The calendar committee did their thing. Bruce Rupp sent out an email for the middle school, and the research that he gave back to us was that we had 3 that did not want to go with option 1. And so once I had that information, I went with our leadership team and said, okay, what's the thought process? Why are we, what's the deal? And we're going to support whatever. Obviously, we're going to do what we need to do. But 6th grade, the biggest deal for us would be 6th grade. Again, the fear is probably you're seeing the common theme. We need kids in our building to be able to teach them to be remote, because our 6th graders have never used what we're doing with Canvas. They've never seen it, they don't understand it. And then that will be very hard for us to be able to manage the 6th graders if they've never done it without teaching them. One of the things I'll ask my staff to do the second full week of school is we're going to try and remote learn while we're at school. So in other words, it's going to be a remote learning process, but they're in school, and we'll walk through those things so they can really learn what that looks like, with the hope that we never remote learn, but if it's there, it's there. So I guess that's the thing. We're in the same boat with Lance and athletics. Everyone that we checked our league schools, every one of them are starting athletics on August 17th. Every school is. So again, we're going to have those kids there for that time, we hope. But I get your job's hard, I understand. I asked my staff to say, okay, we can't get 100% vote, but we have to rule with consensus, and that's part of a team. And so part of the team is that the consensus is, what are we going to do? And we worked through a lot of scenarios, and we worked through procedures, and we worked through how are we going to do this, this, and this, and the processes of what that looks like. And our staff's awesome. Carrie mentioned that, and we all know that. So they're going to do what they have to do it. I know there's lots of fear in certain places, and I understand that, because everyone has a different individual circumstance with it. So anyway, just to give you that piece from us, it's probably not much different than what you've heard. And again, thank you for your time, and because it's not easy for you guys. So is there anything you want to ask on the middle school side? We want the kids there so we can make sure we have time to get. It's not like we want to rush it, but we know right now we may have time to have them, and later we won't. And there's a lot of stuff we got to get in process in case we don't have them.
Well, I appreciate what you said about getting the kids in the classrooms and learning to do remote learning again right off the bat, because if we have to transition to remote learning, they're ready to go. And I'm assuming this other folks in the district have,
Yeah,
same thing or planted the same ideas, but
And that wasn't really my idea. That came out in our leadership, but one teacher said, "Oh, here's what I'm going to do." And I'm like, hey, that's a great idea.
Yeah.
So look,
Yeah.
we should probably, I'm going to recommend we do that. So anyway.
as I mentioned in my blurb, my speech, that we appreciate the district planning flexibility from the very beginning because we know things are going to change. Hold on, I had a thought that just escaped. Yes, go ahead, please.
Well, and I think furthermore, there's something important to note that we've got 4 proposed calendars, which can be, I think I'm saying this accurately, we could consider other options as well. But I think then you've been, at a district level, been thinking more this way in a lot of versatility in your planning. Hopefully our goal today is we can get you to where you can start going this way with your planning. Can you share though, Ron, why August 20, the week between, it would be the week of August 24th, that Monday, through the 28th, that's not one of the options? Can you share why?
Well, when we originally put these options together, we looked at the 19th as moving it back from the original date of the 13th. And then we could have definitely done a week later, the 26th, and that can definitely be an option if that's something that you choose. But the reason we did that is we were just kind of looking in 2-week segments because as we have learned about this coronavirus, there is kind of a 14-day period that we look at in terms of, how trends seem to be looked at. So we jumped that a week forward to look at that 1st of September, 2nd of September date. And then we also gave you the option just the after Labor Day, which that was trying to work in what the governor had originally sent out. So that's the reason why, but it definitely, if you want to look at pushing it, in between, the 19th and September 2nd, we can definitely do that. I don't think it'll be an issue.
So there are obviously a lot of area schools that were starting that week of the 24th.
Yes.
Did you talk to any of the area medical, or, in terms of they still support the region? And so is there any concern that all of our schools starting on the same day could provide a concern to the medical community that would be supporting?
Well, I don't necessarily know if any, we've talked specifically about everyone starting at the same time as that, whether that's good or bad. We have talked to the health professionals in our community as well as the health officer quite a bit. They're in agreement, and it's a tough decision. It's kind of like throwing a dart. You don't really know exactly when the right time should be to hit the center. But I think they all have agreements that, if you can give more time, that is beneficial, but they also completely understand that getting kids back, and that's what you're hearing from our administration, is very crucial as well.
And if I was understanding some of my conversations as well, that the delayed start is really more about helping the teams prepare rather than being motivated by the virus itself.
Yeah, I would say that's there. I mean, I think there's a couple things, and you guys are well aware. We have seen some trends surging in the last couple of weeks in our community. So giving more time lends itself to helping maybe getting some of our numbers going down. But we still don't know if that will be higher in the coming weeks too. So I mean, but at the same time, yes, we haven't really gone through the plan specifically, but I think there's still a lot of unknowns in our plan in terms of fine details, and so we still have some of that to be done, and we would definitely utilize that time if that's the decision of the board to push it back, to take advantage of that time to really work out more of those details.
And I guess I want to ask some of the people that are here in the audience that have spoke to us today whether or not that pushing that back to the 25th, 26th, whatever, would be helpful to them, or the 19th would be more workable. Whoever wants to answer that question, I guess, or several people.
First question I'd ask on that is contractually, do we have access to teachers? Because remember, they're contracted a certain number of days. So if we push time back, we're moving that same time with the teachers back. Does that make sense?
Yes. Yes.
So, I mean, there's that, I'm just saying that that would be part of that discussion too.
Yeah, and I think what we would still consider, though, is what we would be looking at 3 in-service days plus a work day.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. That'll be part of that.
With every plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Could you maybe, though, talk a little bit about, I mean, I'm wondering if some of the options were not as desired because they go into the month of June, but could you talk about, today we're going to determine a start date,
Yes.
but that there's flexibility and work yet to be done on the calendar by you. Can you talk more?
And that's what I've shared with the calendar committee and as an entire staff. Is our desire today, our goal today is just to get a start date, and where we need to start targeting is when we'll have school resuming. And then once we get that start date, over this period of time, we'll get the calendar committee reconvened, and we'll start working through how we can, maybe compress our calendar so that we don't have to go into June if a later start date is selected. And I think you've heard that the option 2, remote learning, was really overwhelmingly not supported by teachers. I would say also, you would also have the same kind of support in terms of not wanting to go into June. I think, and they just understand how our minds work and how kids' minds work, and sometimes May is some of the hardest months, or the month of the school year, just because kids, warm weather, summer activities are right, on the forefront. So by avoiding that lateness in the month of May into early June is very desirable. So by reconvening the calendar committee, we would probably be looking at maybe how we could flex some of the day or move our days around on the calendar. It's just, and I think we'd have to be very creative. I think that's where we have to understand that this is not a normal year, and we may not get all the normal breaks. If you truly want to get out before in June, before Memorial Day, it's going to take people understanding that we got to be a little creative in how we look at some of our days that are marked as vacation or off days, and maybe look at shortening that.
So then in terms of there's days, and we can adjust in terms of the breaks, but can you talk about adding minutes to the day is not really on our plate?
That's good. I'm glad you brought that up. We have had some people who have offered, could we add minutes to the day? And let's talk first of all, one of the great things that we got accomplished this year is we added 15 minutes to our school day. Now it varies according to buildings and what they've been doing already, but so we already have additional time. But I think the thing is, and I want to be, and I've shared this with the entire staff of the district, we really are not interested in reducing the number of student contact days just so we can meet, those not going past Memorial Day. I think we all, as an administrative team, we've all been pretty much in line that student contact days are very important, and we have to have kids in classrooms, and just adding additional minutes doesn't always equate to extra learning or better learning. So as days go longer, we all have those switches that sometimes switch off at certain points of the time. So we are just very interested as administrative team, and as we work with the calendar committee, I'm not going to say we wouldn't maybe propose something, but at the same time, we're really wanting to really look at keeping our student contact days the same.
Okay.
I have a couple questions. Ron, are you confident, and maybe everything has come in, but do we have all the equipment and all the I know there's a lot of things that are back ordered. Is that going to be in by the 19th?
Well, and Rusty is here. I think what I've heard, and Rusty, maybe you should just answer that.
Before I get started, I did want to echo what Tom said. I appreciate the decision that you guys have before you. I've been in a couple command decisions in my time too, and sometimes they're not the most popular places to be, so I appreciate what you're doing. As far as supplies, we got a large order in yesterday. Matter of fact, we were just getting it all organized today. We'll have another large order in. Basically, we've got options. We didn't just go with one standard. This is going to be our fix-all fix. We've got multiple different types of sanitizers, disinfectants, different medias to put it down with, different options. So if we did hit a shortage on one or the other, we would have a way to cover it without being dead in the water. So got training set up for the week of the 10th to come in to go through the different options, a couple of the products we haven't used before. We have also got some products that we're bringing in for student use with wiping down desks and stuff, and we want to go through the mixing of that and make sure that we have all of it. We've got a couple new products that we're bringing in and for nursing staff, and we're trying to set up a date with them to go through at least an hour in service or 2 hours in service with them on that. So we've got things in place. We're ready to go. I mean, we may not have everything that we'd hope to have by now, but we also got options to deal with it if we don't get it. So
Great.
we could start the 13th if we needed to. So that's where we're at.
The machines that you asked the board to order past, are those machines in?
We have part of them. The Victories, the one that were made in China, they're a little bit tougher to get. Everybody can sell those. The supply on those, I actually talked to our supplier. He's had some people that have went out and went to 2 or 3 vendors and basically has told them if you get them somewhere, fine, but so far he said no one's canceled their orders with them because everybody's in the same boat. They're just coming in a few at a time. The 360s, that's an American-made product. They're actually more readily available, and we've already got part of those in. So,
But you have the wipes or you will soon have the disinfectant.
we have
wipes
all
and
the
sprays.
we have all the sanitizer and disinfectant in. Now, part of it was you need to realize that we had just placed an order for the school for the end of the school year when we shut down in March. So as far as our actual building orders, we really didn't have to add much. The buildings pretty much had their supplies to start with this year.
Right.
So what we did is we went back in and we looked at all the things. We're going to do a lot more hand washing. So we ordered an extra half a year of hand towels, anticipating the hand washing. Soap was another one. We looked at a half year supply of it above what we already had in the buildings just to cover that. We've got that in. Hand sanitizer, we've got that in. We've got the disinfectant and the sanitizer in that we're going to use on the student desk. We have not got the media yet. It's supposed to be on the order for next week, next Wednesday. When that comes in, we'll have everything for the classrooms. If for some reason it does get held up, we've got microfiber and stuff that we can use with spray bottles until we get to that point. So like I said, we've got options. It's not that we're just down to one. And on the machines, we were looking at those more as if we have an outbreak and we're needing to do something to where we're going into every room. And we could do it with the machines we have. We could do that in a day if we needed to. So.
Well, I want to, real quick here, highlight that we have a district full of educated, knowledgeable, and experienced people. And so while we may not be able to do things exactly the way we initially planned, you're making adjustments for those things.
Yeah.
And then on the teacher side, we have educated folks asking some very good questions, and when confronted with problems, they're able to figure things out. So I guess I'm sort of reflecting on some of the emails that I received that, are we medical experts? Well, no. That's why we're relying on medical experts, but we are education experts. So, yeah. Before I go off on another tangent, I'll stop. Alan, do you have something else to add to that?
Yes, the other question, and maybe this is not for you, Rusty, that's okay.
Okay.
Is So you mentioned about, and Marty mentioned it, that it'd be better if it started on the second week if we made an adjustment. Would it be as simple as if we moved it to like the 24th? It would just mean the 24th would be our end date also?
Without looking specifically at the calendar, like I said, we can make anything work. I think there was some thought, and the elementary staff administrators might respond. I think how they start with the elementary students is very crucial. I think 24th on Monday.
Yeah.
Well, so I was looking, I've kind of looked at, I'm sitting here messing with option 3. Sorry, Anita Shooter, principal of Wilson Elementary. And if we would, Ron and I talked yesterday, we would take out that April Monday after Easter, we could actually end on a Friday on May 21st. I'll have to count the days to make sure. But I think we could eliminate the ending in June, maintain the integrity of the length of the day, as well as start, that would be August 26th. So it's a full week to start elementary is very difficult, especially for kindergartners coming in. It's a lot.
Yeah.
So, especially after almost 5.5 month break.
So what are you saying, Anita? What are you saying as far as the start date?
If that would be, sorry, I was playing with an August 26th start date, which is the middle of the week.
Okay.
And there's some wiggle room with days. We can, because I'm on the calendar committee, we can manage some days or take some, we've always preferred the Monday after Easter off, but if we would make that a student contact day, I believe we could end on a Friday instead of, because ending on a Monday is not good for anyone.
Right.
So that would get us ending on a Friday. But I know we'd have to count days to make sure that works, but we can tweak that. It would work out and I think accomplish what I'm hearing sounds like everybody would like to do, which is have a little bit later start, but also maintain, not end after Memorial Day in June, if that makes sense.
It seems to be a good compromise between those.
Oh, that would make staff, we could get those 3 professional development days would be August 20th, 21st, 24th. Teachers would have a work day on the 25th. Elementary has always started with a half day and ended with a half day, so we would start with a half day on the 26th. That would be a workable possibility, I think. I don't know.
Okay, I see where Alan was going here. On the option 1, we start on the 19th of August and end on the 19th of May. So if we started on the 26th of August, we could probably more or less end on the 26th of May. So I think,
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to
whatever works. I'm just
I know Anita's kind of, and so that's really, your job is to say, this is the day, and then we'll work out those details.
But I'm saying,
And I think anything can be worked out.
I understand. I agree 100%.
I like it.
Okay. And a good point was brought up earlier that, 4-day state students are coming back on the 17th, August 17th, which means they'll be moving into the dorms, I would assume, the week prior or something like that. So we don't want to, I really don't know if we want to wait till, my personal opinion, I don't think we want to wait till after Labor Day, because then, you're right, we won't be able to get the kids in the classroom if the numbers start to increase. And that also does push us back into June. So in my opinion, I'm taking option 4 off the table because that pushes things too late. I'm going to dismiss, from my perspective, option 2 because starting remote causes lots of trouble for elementary teachers especially, and counselors. I do think that it would be a good idea to push things back a week. So I would suggest that we start on August 26th.
Is that a motion?
No, just my opinion. And I want to get feedback from other folks because there's so much information that it's hard to make a good call. And as I mentioned, whatever we decide probably won't meet the needs of everybody. And if the virus takes off again, we'll be changing.
I would agree with that, with also the understanding that I think there needs to be a hybrid start. And what hybrid means, though, is really, that's back on you. But I agree, I think there's there's a lot of different situations in there, but the 3 transition years, kindergarten, 6th grade, and freshman year, that is so hard for any of those kids, let alone transfers, new kids to the system. But, and so to me, I totally understand the desire to get the kids in, and I think that should be, I think that's everybody's goal, get the kids in the building. But, you know, I'm going to steal another mantra that I've heard from some health professionals, is small and same, meaning smaller groups and the same groups will help with some of the spread of the virus and maybe eliminating if indeed we can keep small. But what does that mean for the elementary is different for the middle school, is again different for the high school. And so, but I think though that hybrid allows maybe some customization that you feel would work best for those different age groups and buildings.
Yeah.
But then if we did this hybrid, that really, I think, then is why the delayed start needs to happen. But
yeah, I mean, we are on our plan. The different learning environments are kind of predicated on what phase our community restrictions are placed in, and that would be part of the plan. Is that we would be meeting with our local medical health professionals as well as our health officers here in the county to determine, our numbers and where our, maybe our percent of positive cases is going in terms of up, down, flat, and that will help us place into different phases. To talk a little bit about the hybrid, we have spent an incredible amount of time as an administrative group talking about all our different learning environments. Hybrid is by far the most difficult one to, they're all these phases probably are difficult. Maybe not on site as much because that's what we're used to, but the hybrid is really difficult because although we have it in our plan and we plan to utilize it when needed, it's really still kind of up in the air exactly how that would look. So many logistics in terms of how we coordinate everything from student schedules to child care to a number of things that we have to look at. We are definitely willing as an administrative team to spend some more time on the hybrid model. If we are in that phase, I think that's definitely what we would consider starting. But I think to echo maybe so I'll let the administrator, our goal would really be to get our kids back, to get them acclimated, whether it's a small group or a large group, but I think the thing is we just got to figure out where we're at, and then we'll make those decisions.
so if I'm hearing that, I guess part of the spirit behind that hybrid was, is it helpful now for you to be planning it? Or is it, no, let's wait till, we know we're starting, say, on a certain date, and then the day before you would make that decision based on that?
No, yeah, well, as far as decisions of moving to the hybrid, yeah, how we envision this happening is we will be meeting weekly with like I said, our health professionals as well as health officers, and looking at numbers. We're hoping to designate Wednesday because that's usually the day that our local numbers come out. And then on Wednesday, we'll have a meeting with all these people. Then we'll determine where we're at as far as a community. And then those decisions will be made for the following Monday. So it'll give people the time to adjust to what possibly may look different from where they are at the current week. So that's the plan right now, is that Wednesday will be the day that we'd make those decisions. We would announce that we would be moving possibly to a new phase or staying in the same phase. And then on the following Monday, we would be making those adjustments. So that'll give everyone about 4 days to make those changes. Because we understand transitions are going to be tough. It's going to be tough for kids, but it's also families, and they've got to make some maybe possibly different arrangements.
Well, and you mentioned the daycare, and we certainly understand that some of the people will rely on their older children potentially.
Sure.
And so it's more complicated than just do we or do we not have a babysitter. Thank you for that clarification.
Tammy, I'm glad you brought that up with the hybrid. I've heard a lot, but, you know, I really feel that our board's decision is to get this start date made and then rely on the central administration and the principals on how to do it in the best way. And just, they have provided us with a lot of options, and I don't want to get into say what's working the best or whatever. I think they in the buildings and in the district know what the plans are and what fits best with our kids.
Yeah, I agree there with you, what you're saying, Craig, but I also think it's important to stress that, my opinion, in that if we start on the 26th, that's giving us another week of time from the 19th, and I would like some time spent during that week to, and I know you're going to do this already, but I'll just say it, put some thought into that hybrid model.
Yeah.
And also the total remote model, which we already have done. Because I'm assuming that we're going to be needing to do one of those things. Good. And then the other part is during that time, sort of nail down the metrics that you're using to make these decisions of going from phase 1 to phase 2. And maybe you have them already worked out, but I'm not sure. I haven't seen them yet. I know you have them. I know it's a process of working with the county health people and your team and taking advice and deciding, oh, time to flip the switch from phase 1 to phase 2. But it'd be good to see.
Yeah, I think if you, I don't know.
I totally get it.
We have added a table to the plan. This was maybe
okay. Maybe I didn't miss that piece of information.
As far as low restrictions, moderate restrictions, high restrictions, there is not specific numbers included. What we have learned through this and visiting with our medical professionals and health officer is that it's very difficult to say this is the right number to look at to determine where we are at. And there's a lot of numbers that we'll look at, but there won't be a specific number that will always just say, depending upon if that number goes up or down, will determine our phase. So that's the information that we've taken from our medical professionals that we've been communicating with, as well as our county health officer. They're in a joint agreement that there is just really not one metric that we can hang our hat on. But we'll definitely be looking at all those. And on that table, we have the low restrictions, moderate restrictions, high restrictions, and kind of maybe some of the, yes, and it's up there on the screen, what we'll be using to determine our phases.
No, you're right. I appreciate you saying that. I do recall glancing at a table, basically gating criteria and thresholds, and it mentions the 14 days and the percent of the population and everything, so it does inform you on which way to go.
The gating criteria ties directly back to Ellis County Health Department.
Okay.
And how they look at, so there are hard numbers, but it's not necessarily hard numbers because that may change over time. And like Ellis County Health is saying, well, it kind of depends. But also, like Ron was talking about on the Wednesday meeting, so we've got Ellis County Health Department who's looking countywide. We've also got a doctor from the Ellis County, or from the Hayes Med, because they look at a little bit different numbers because they're regional, right? So then they have some hard numbers that they're using. The hardest numbers that we will probably have, like if you're looking for distinct numbers, and I don't know what those numbers are yet because we'll have to get in and see. But some of the things that will determine it will be number of kids that are out. Right. Maybe more telling will be number of staff that are out. So can we staff? Sometimes we may be moving, Ellis County Health may say, no, things are good in Ellis County, and the hospital may say, well, regionally we've got a lot of cases, but one way or the other, if we don't have enough subs or teachers because we've got too many out, we may end up shutting down. So that's where I'm saying it really is going to be those three prongs go together, or we got too many kids that are out, something like that.
I appreciate those comments, and I want to make two things here. We haven't discussed this yet. I'm assuming if you need help, you will come to us, but I'm open to discussing hiring paraprofessionals and other staff to help teachers if we need to do that. And secondly, trust is very important. As I mentioned in my opening comments, parents need to trust the teachers that they are watching out for their children. And the community needs to trust the USD 49 district to make good decisions about the phases that we're in and everything else. But
Yeah,
and
I
we
think-
do trust. We
I
just,
think Chris makes a good point, is that staffing is going to be a huge issue. Appreciate the comments that, and the board's been very good about working with us, and I anticipate that you will continue to support us in terms of how we go about getting staff, because it will be our biggest dilemma probably. And it could be from, our classified staff, the cooks, bus drivers.
right.
I mean,
Across the board.
and that's where it comes back to those statements that I keep telling everyone. Please give us patience, flexibility, and grace, because it's going to be difficult when we can't find people to cook food and we're trying to figure out how we're still going to have school. And that's just, it seems a little odd, but that sometimes might be the one thing that we have to say, okay, we can't do this right now in the same way, so we got to have to switch until we can get some people back and get some things. One of the things that part of the plan that we are including is, one of the things that we've, in all these conversations, is we're going to put a lot of stress on our school nurses this year,
right?
Because they're in a very high-profile situation in terms of dealing with kids, staff who maybe are in situations where we're having symptoms and they want to know, what's going on. So part of the plan is we're wanting to add another school nurse. I know we've already added the assistant, but the school nurse would be our lead nurse, Jessica Rowe. We just feel like we need a COVID contact person in the health of actually in our school. So when we have questions, and there's going to be tons of questions from parents, my kid this morning woke up, is what should I do? That we'll have that contact person directly who will just kind of be administrating over the entire district, not necessarily just one school nurse. So if we add that extra nurse, we'll fill her position temporarily. It's just a 1 year, and we want to advertise, or we're advertising that as a 1 year only position. But as we deal with this COVID situation, we're just going to need as many health professionals helping people, and it's a lot of times it can be just relaxing some fears and anxieties.
Right.
So, and also getting them to the right resources if they need additional help.
Okay, thank you. Very good.
Mr. President?
Yes.
When we're looking at this possible change to another week, I would like to talk to Marty and Tom again. And I understand totally why a Wednesday start date for elementary would be great, especially for kindergarten. But I just wondered if an extra day for you, so you can have 2 meetings per class, or what if, is that the best ideal for you, being on a Wednesday, or would it be better to start on Tuesday by communicating what I'm trying to say?
It's not unusual to start with a partial week. I had, when I spoke earlier, really that week of the 24th is what we would be interested in. We can't go to the 19th. Much of what we talked about in administrative council,
Much of what we talked about at administrative council, we went through 3 or 4 different calendars that very day and ended up on the 19th because of that reason. So we would be completely fine with that, obviously. It's not unusual to start with partial week. We can make that work. Yes, sir.
But each day, another day, doesn't matter if it's on a Tuesday or Wednesday or Monday?
We'll just figure it along. That'd be fine with us. Tom, I think, says it.
Yeah, I think, I was just asking Scott, the good thing for us will work is that Hayes High can get their devices out on Wednesday, Thursday, and we can get ours out on Friday. Our staff was really adamant about, we wanted those devices as soon as we could, because again, that process starts so that following Monday we go through, and then the next week, here's our remote, we're going to practice into it and go. So that's fine. That's not going to be an issue either way, Alan, for us. So especially if it helps them, that's the best thing to do that too. So. And 6th graders, this, it's going to be tough for them. We've got to remember this, guys, they're not used to this. And so that's going to mean that shorter week's probably better to learn to adapt to that versus even 5 full days of it. So
we can make that work.
This right here is exactly what I was talking about at the first place when we said this. We can all work together to come up with something where we can compromise on, and that seems like exactly what we've done here. It sounds to me like the 26th, I think, is a good compromise for everybody. It sounds like you guys have even talked about it ahead of time and gone through there, so to me, I think that sounds like a good compromise as far as a possible start date on that. So with that and having been said and echoing what Ron said, I mean, obviously it sounds like this is already fluid. Things are going to change as we go down this, but having said that, I'm going to make a motion that we set the first day of school as September 20, is that right? Yeah, September 20.
No,
August, sorry. Sorry. August 26th.
I'll second it.
All right, very good. All right, we have a motion on the floor to start the 2020-2021 school year on August 26th. Do I have a second?
Alan did.
Alan seconded? Okay, thanks, Alan. All right, do we have any more discussion about the motion?
We're just talking about the date, correct? Because I
That
have
is-
some other questions about the plan, but.
Yep, we're just talking about the calendar right now.
And obviously, based off what Ron said, knowing that start date, then they'll go back to the calendar committee and see what they can do to adjust those dates, or, like I said, try to, hopefully, if we can, hopefully get out in May, as everybody was hoping to as well. So hopefully that will also address another portion of staff's concerns and things like that, so.
And I think, too, they expressed something I know Ron had shared with me, but we understand not just the teachers and the children, but families are making plans accordingly to future breaks and that. So you're cognizant of that, and I know you and your team will try to get that answer.
Yeah, we'll move on it very quickly because, like you said, people want to know, and we got to honor that. So once that date is set, if it is the 26th, we'll be working almost immediately to try and formulate that calendar and get some consensus among that group.
All right, any other quick comments?
And with our starting date of the August 26th, and we are also saying we are okay with the sports following the KSHE calendar starting on August 17th.
I think we pretty much have to be, don't we?
I think so, yeah.
Well, that's still up to districts, but I think it'd be good to set, if that's where, as a board, we're going.
Yeah, I mean, I would support what Lance. I mean, when we don't want to put our student athletes at a disadvantage, and I have not heard of any other district. Not going to say other districts are not starting later, but I would just hate to put our kids behind the 8 ball. So,
Bill, with that being from the state, is that, I mean, since it's already set, is that anything we need to vote on, or?
No, it would only be if you wanted to change it.
Okay. Yeah.
Good. Thank you.
Okay, so the motion we have on the table covers
The start date.
start date of KSHE unless we want to change it. Okay. Okay, anything else? All right, I'm going to call for a vote. All in favor, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Any abstain? Anybody abstaining? No, I don't hear any, so motion passes 6-0. Please vote electronically.
So with that KSHE, may I continue, Mr.
Sure, go ahead.
With whether it's KSHE or some other, and I'm going to use this term loosely, governing body, because that may not be the right term, but whether it's KSHE, the State Board of Education, Department of Education, I mean, we're talking about athletics, but in terms of the music and the other activities, extracurricular, I would be, and I don't know whether a motion needs to be made, but my opinion would be we follow those guidelines at their minimum and not necessarily put any further restrictions in place, which would offset a comment I know that you had shared in before the KSHE announcement came out. I know that there was some discussion about the online learning environment. So where would we stand then? Because I believe, can you share more to that, Ron?
And there was with one of the options being a remote learning environment. virtual environment for students. That is something that some parents have already designated that their kids would like to, or they would like to have their kids do that, which is perfectly fine. We've had some discussions as an administrative group for those that have extracurricular activities in terms of how we respond to that, because previous to this pandemic, it was always the CASH's policy that if you were going to be a virtual student, to participate in CASHA extracurricular activities, you had to be on campus for one class, at least one, if not more. So CASHA last week changed that policy that gives families and students the opportunity to choose the remote option and not actually have their students in a classroom for one or more. So in visiting with administration, we are just going to honor that. If that is the choice, what we would require of families is that they talk to administration and work through situations as each situation is a little different, and there's different requirements from families and what they need. And so we'll just ask families to work with that. We'll work with them. We want to be accommodating. We truly want our students, and despite everything that's still going on, to have the best opportunity this year in spite of everything that's going to be still thrown at them. So if we can work with families to make that work, we definitely want to. And so we'll adhere to what is asked by families and for their requirements.
So there's nothing, that's part of
CASHA's
planning, we don't
already-
need to be a part of it.
No.
Okay.
CASHA's already agreed to allow that out.
And we'll work on, that'll be worked through with administration.
So in a nutshell, we have virtual students, I'll call them that way, people that are not, that are taking virtual high school courses.
Yes.
Then we have on-site and also remote, and that's sort of a different animal. The remote learning is we're learning from our district teachers, but remotely. The virtual is the folks that are enrolled in the
Edgenuity.
Edgenuity. Okay.
May I make one more comment, please?
Sure.
Okay. I think we need to do our due diligence and bring up a topic that has been a theme in most of our emails, and that is the topic of masks.
Okay.
Everybody internally grown. But at that point, in your plan, I think it's important, I think it would be a typo, but you mention in the plan mask or face covering required for all students, faculty, staff, and visitors with exceptions outlined in Kansas Executive Order 2058 should be actually 2059.
Okay.
And so in looking at that,
Catch.
I think that I applaud that the plan has a clear reference that is grounding this. I realize that that is going to be met with people expressing their concerns, frustrations, disappointment, or whatever. I'm personally in support of us following that executive order. I think that there's so many different degrees of opinions with that, and so I think if we can have a very clear-cut stated document, which you have, is the best for our district.
Yeah, I mean, we really truly are going to require that anyone who is in our school buildings, because of just the density that is going to be created at various times, we'll do the best we can to social distance, but I've been very open, and anyone I've visited with, there's going to be times where it's just going to be near impossible to social distance 6 feet or more. It's just not going to work. So that's why it's just extremely important that masks be worn in all of our schools, just because of the density and the spacing that is not going to be required. And I know, like Tammy said, it sometimes is one of those issues that people feel strongly about on either side. So we're going to require, and so people need to understand that from the onset, that if they really are struggling with that, for their child or themselves to come into the building, then they do have options of the off-site remote learning if that's an issue. But we're going to be really requiring it, and we don't really want to create a big fight or anything. It's just, we just want people to know that that's just going to be part of our life, and we have to learn how to live with this for a while. It shouldn't be forever, but for the current time, we're going to just have to adjust.
To clarify, if a student just can't wear a mask or doesn't want to wear a mask, and they should, they can do the virtual learning?
Yes.
Or because you mentioned remote, but I want to clarify, it's the standalone virtual.
Well, okay, so.
Or is it remote
just
too?
to clarify, it would be the parent off-site.
Okay, that's what I'm.
Because the hybrid would be where we are asked, we would be on-site for part of the time. They would be, at home or on another site. So they are different.
Gotcha. I want to clarify that.
Only other caveat I would say to that is if you go to the CDC website, it does share something a little different in terms of the age of the child. So that may be something to consider. In the state order, it's age 5. In the CDC website, it's age 8. But to me, that's work to be done by you all.
As elementary admin, we've discussed maybe purchasing like neck gaiters for the younger kids, which are a little bit looser. They would stay on so they can drop them down and keep them on there, and it'd be much easier and less chance to touch everything else.
Right.
So we're kind of exploring some options. We also established cohorts at the elementary. So there will be times like recess will be without masks because they're outdoors. PE, we're going to encourage to go outdoors. So we're trying to build in specific times that they won't have masks, or face coverings. But we're going to look at seeing if we can get an option that's less restrictive, so less of a sensory overload for the younger kids.
That's a good idea.
Well, thank you for bringing that up, because I think it's, again, this gets back to the trusting our administration, school administration, district, and teachers. Teachers are really looking out for kids, and they're going to do the best they can do to enforce the mask rule and then adjust as necessary. So
We purchased a couple of oversized easels that can easily be taken outside, getting our classes outside as much as possible.
great, thank you.
Good.
Thank you for all that.
And it will be a year of lots of adjusting and lots of flexibility.
Which is probably the adjustments more on the adults sometimes than the children.
Yeah.
They're pretty
I think you're probably
resilient.
right. I think if they're in the school environment and people wearing masks, the kids are wearing the masks.
Thank you for letting me bring that forward, though.
Very good.
And best wishes as you continue to. So in the terms of the plan, it'll continue to be tweaked now with this new knowledge, and you'll just keep putting it on the website?
Yeah, that's another good point. Please understand, we are still planning. And then, I think Lance said that in his statement, that this is just changing, and we learn more. We also have new information that helps us make decisions. So, yeah, we're still, this is I would call a finalized plan, but yet there's still going to be lots of tweaks here or there as we, approach the 26th of August. So we got some work to do, and the one thing I just want to say this, I don't know, we might be getting close to finishing up, is that I have just been, I can't even tell you, in situations like this, sometimes it's difficult to really find the shiny rock in all the rocks that are sometimes preventing us to do the things we want to do. But the administration, Chris, Shannon, Kyle, the building administrators, the directors, it's just impressive. And I'm just almost inspired by the work that they have put in over this summer to put everything together. They've spent a lot of time, listening, but also giving a lot of input and trying to come up with solutions when we didn't really know if these were the right solutions.
Right.
And I'm just, and it's been mentioned here, it's just, I love the team approach that we are seeing to even from the board side, everyone's just working together, and it's just so impressive because that's really when we're at our best. And so, just a credit to everyone that has been a part of this process. So, really appreciate it.
I'm glad you made those comments. We all feel the same way up here, but we don't often say it. So, yes, thank you to the entire district team, and also parents that have invested in this as well, that have provided good, productive comments. So, okay, are we ready to finish?
So,
any more comments before we move on?
Like maybe one.
Yep.
Just one thing I want to put out there. As you know, part of the plan is temperature checks for all the kids and staff and everything else. And so we've been looking at that just buying thermometers. So we're looking at about 300 no-touch thermometers. We reached out to Aetna, who is the health insurance provider for the district. And they gave us word yesterday that they donated $15,000, basically purchasing all 300 of the thermometers we need.
That's awesome.
That's great.
That's excellent.
Well, and
Good news from an
thank you
insurance
for-
company? That's great. That's good.
Thank you to all of, I think that's a creative solution to a financial challenge. And I think thank you for continuing to explore those as you go. And hopefully there will be grants and the CARES Act and whatever else could come our way.
Yeah. Along with that, and to that point, Tammy, there's spark money, but it's COVID money at the county level that I've been on the committee working really closely. And so we're in the process of submitting for some additional expenses. We do have some money coming from the feds also this year for direct school COVID aid. So we've been able to find some partners, I guess, in helping us get just some of the supplies and equipment that we need to be able to make this happen.
Fantastic.
Yeah, and I'll just piggyback on what he said. The county, I've been on the committee, the Ellis Cares committee, and been working with them. We're able to submit some of our receipts for expenses that we incurred through this pandemic that were above and beyond of what we normally would have spent. So we'll be able to get reimbursed from that spark money from the county that they have received. Then there will be another time where they will have the opportunity to maybe submit some more, maybe some costs that we may be looking at for the future that as we go through this school year. So we're working on that right now. We have a quick deadline. August 15th is when that money will be allocated by the county to the various entities within our county.
Okay.
That's excellent.
Great.
Thank you.
Okay, I'm going to call to adjourn the meeting before we keep chatting. But I am calling for a motion to adjourn the meeting. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed?
Nay, I want to keep talking.
There's always one of you. Okay, please vote electronically.